Jensen has confirmed what we all have been thinking. Caitlin Clark has definitely been helping the Iowa women basketball team land some of the biggest recruits in the country.
Something big just dropped out of Iowa, and it's sending shockwaves through both college basketball and the WNBA. The associate head coach, who's been at the heart of Iowa's powerhouse women's program, may have just confirmed what fans have whispered for months. Caitlin Clark has been quietly helping the Hawkeyes land top-tier recruits, not just any recruits, but 5 of the most promising young stars in the country.
Iowa is one of the most popular schools in all of the college basketball world because of simply one superstar player, and that is Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark transitioned and transformed women basketball to the shape that we know it to be today. She carried on and did the same thing in her professional career with the W.
It's a revelation that blurs the line between athlete influence and recruiting power, raising serious questions about how deep Clark's impact really goes. From her record-breaking college days to her WNBA spotlight, Caitlin's name still carries enough weight to shape the future of Iowa basketball. But now that Jensen's words are out in the open, fans, critics, and league insiders are asking one question: how far does Caitlin Clark's reach really extend behind the scenes?
Before Caitlin Clark got there, Iowa was not a go-to school. Like, people didn't really it wasn't like a check mark, like, I'm going to go to Iowa. It wasn't up there with like a UConn, South Carolina, or anything like that. Well, after Caitlin Clark went there, led them to back-to-back national championship games, and unfortunately, they didn't win, but the coaching staff is one of the best in the nation when it comes to basketball. Lisa Bluter arguably could coach an NBA team. That's how basketball of a genius she is.
When Jensen sat down with local media this week, no one expected her to drop a bombshell that would shake both college and professional basketball circles. In what seemed like a casual interview about Iowa's recruiting class, Jensen let something slip: a quiet acknowledgement that Caitlin Clark, the biggest name to ever come out of the Hawkeye program, played a direct role in helping Iowa land several of their new 5-star recruits. It wasn't said with scandal in mind. It was almost offhand, like a coach proud of her program's legacy.
Jensen was there every step of the way through it all, alongside Lisa Bluter, putting this thing together and making sure this women's basketball team that we know and love to watch be on the top level that it is today. And I'm here to tell you, they are still a powerhouse school, and Jensen slipped the cat out the bag.
But the moment those words left her mouth, social media lit up. Fans clipped the video. Analysts dissected her tone. And suddenly, the question wasn't about Iowa's next season. It was about how deeply Caitlin Clark's influence still runs through the program. For years, people have credited Caitlin for transforming women's basketball at Iowa. She sold out arenas, made national headlines, and put the Hawkeyes on the map. But this revelation suggests her legacy didn't end when she entered the WNBA. It evolved. Jensen hinted that Caitlin didn't just inspire recruits, she may have actively helped bring them in. Imagine being a high school player, getting a phone call or even a message from Caitlin Clark herself, telling you to come play for Iowa.
Caitlin Clark just sent an anonymous donation to the Iowa women's basketball team NIL program, and boom, they playing top dollar for her alone. Damn near could get some of these big name young ladies to come to Iowa. Massive NIL deals with Caitlin Clark donating. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened, but I'm just saying that very much could be the case that Caitlin Clark has single-handedly transformed the roster with her pocketbook alone, bruh.
For most young athletes, that would be like a golden ticket. The timing of Jensen's comment couldn't be more interesting. Iowa is coming off back-to-back championship runs, and yet they've somehow managed to secure 5 major recruits despite Caitlin's departure. That kind of recruiting success usually signals big NIL money or a massive culture pull, but in this case, it might have been both. Rumors started swirling that Caitlin had made a personal donation to the team's NIL collective, giving Iowa a financial edge in recruiting wars. If true, that would mean Clark didn't just help shape Iowa's image. She may have literally funded its future.
Now, with that being said, this article came out by Iowa Sports Illustrated. Said Iowa head coach credits Caitlin Clark for recruiting success. Could you imagine being recruited by Caitlin Clark, bro? Like, who's going to tell Caitlin no? Think about this, bro. Caitlin Clark is going to have all the UConn people mad, all the South Carolina people mad. I'm telling you right now, she's going to go pull up to your living room and she going to recruit you to Iowa, bro.
It's a move that blurs the lines between professional and collegiate influence. Technically, Caitlin can't act as an official recruiter, but as a program legend and public figure, her presence carries weight no compliance rule can fully control. And the fact that Jensen openly credited her in front of cameras adds legitimacy to the whispers that have circled since April.
Iowa got a gem in Caitlin Clark, bro. Caitlin Clark can help Iowa turn into a top 10 program at no damn time just because she went there and she could pull up to them living rooms with the coaches of these set programs to help land these players, bro. Because that's what collegiate sport has turned into, this NIL thing.
This wasn't just a slip-up, it was confirmation. For the WNBA, this creates a fascinating dilemma. The league already relies heavily on Caitlin's star power, and now the narrative is shifting back to her college impact, almost overshadowing her rookie season. For Iowa, it's both a blessing and a headache, the kind of publicity that keeps them in headlines, but also invites NCAA curiosity. Either way, Jensen's comment didn't just reveal a detail about recruiting. It reignited a conversation about Caitlin Clark's ongoing power, a power that might be rewriting the rules of women's basketball altogether.
It goes on to say the Iowa Hawkeyes have made a massive leap in recruitment in the last few years. Bet you they did. Wink, wink. In April of 2024, the program secured a commitment from Addie Deal, a top recruit from California. This year, the team has already landed a 5-star recruit from another. Head coach Jensen addressed the media this week, which we're going to listen to some of this, sharing how she managed to stay focused and keeping the in-state talent while also taking the recruiting coast to coast. Jensen believes that former point guard Caitlin Clark, WNBA superstar, deserve credit for attracting some of the top recruits to Iowa, bro. Hands down, Iowa wouldn't be able to do this without Caitlin.
Even after leaving Iowa for the WNBA, Caitlin Clark's name still echoes through the halls of Carver Hawkeye Arena like a legend that refuses to fade. Her records, her charisma, and her leadership have turned her into something bigger than a former player. She's become a symbol, almost a brand tied to Iowa's identity. Every recruit who steps onto that campus knows they're walking in the footsteps of a once-in-a-generation player. But Jan Jensen's recent admission adds a new layer to that influence. It's no longer just about nostalgia. It's about action. Caitlin may still be playing a real active role in shaping the next era of Iowa basketball. When Jensen credited Clark for helping the team land new talent, she wasn't exaggerating. Caitlin's aura is still the ultimate recruiting weapon. Coaches can sell a program's history, its facilities, and its academic support, but when a superstar like Clark is part of that story, it hits differently. Recruits don't just see a school, they see a path to stardom. They see themselves in Caitlin's journey, the same arenas, the same locker rooms, the same chance to make history. That emotional pull is something no marketing budget can match. And it's not hard to understand why. When Caitlin was at Iowa, she didn't just dominate games. She built a fan base that crossed state lines. Her matchups became primetime events, her highlights went viral, and her jersey sales shattered college records. She put Iowa women's basketball on national television almost every week. Now, imagine being a young athlete, 15, 16 years old, watching her hit logo threes and redefine what's possible for a female player. You wouldn't just want to play basketball, you'd want to play her brand of basketball. That's the magnetism Iowa now carries into every living room during recruiting season. But what truly amplifies Clark's legacy is her connection to Iowa's coaching staff. Lisa Bluder and Jan Jensen have built a culture of loyalty and transparency that Caitlin openly praises. She's often seen returning to practices, attending games, and mentoring current players. Those appearances alone make headlines, reminding the world that her heart is still in Iowa. Jensen's slip about her involvement only made public what insiders already suspected. Caitlin never really left. She just moved to a bigger stage while keeping one foot firmly planted in the place that made her. This dual presence, part WNBA superstar, part Iowa ambassador, is rare and powerful. It gives the program credibility that few others can match. When recruits see Clark still engaging with her alma mater, it sends one message loud and clear. Iowa isn't just where great players come from, it's where greatness stays connected. And that ongoing bond between player and program might be the secret weapon that keeps Iowa dominating recruiting conversations long after Caitlin Clark's college jersey was retired. Behind the scenes of this recruiting surge lies one of the most powerful tools in modern college sports: NIL, or name, image, and likeness deals. What used to be a simple recruiting process built on campus tours and coach visits has now turned into a multi-million-dollar chess game, and Caitlin Clark, knowingly or not, might be one of its most influential players. Rumors have circulated for months that Caitlin made a quiet, anonymous contribution to Iowa's NIL collective, allowing the school to compete financially with powerhouse programs like UConn and South Carolina. While no official records confirm this, Jensen's recent remarks gave that theory new life. In today's college landscape, pay-to-play has become the reality. The top recruits want not only the best facilities and exposure, but also financial security. Iowa, historically not known for massive NIL budgets, suddenly started landing top 5-star athletes, something that caught many analysts off guard. The timing, however, perfectly lined up with Caitlin's rise to between her endorsements, commercials, and brand deals. She's one of the highest-paid athletes in women's basketball history. So when the team's recruiting class suddenly jumped in ranking, eyebrows raised. Whether it's direct funding or indirect influence, Caitlin's name carries economic power. Brands that partner with her are more likely to look at Iowa as a destination for marketing. Donors and alumni see her continued involvement as a reason to invest more in the program. Even recruits' parents who understand the business side of college sports see her success as proof that Iowa is a launchpad for careers beyond the court. NIL isn't just about money anymore. It's about association. And Caitlin Clark is one of the most valuable associations a program could have. This is where Jensen's comments become even more significant. When she thanked Caitlin publicly for her role in attracting recruits, she wasn't just referring to personal influence, she might have been hinting at the overall ecosystem Caitlin helped create. Iowa's fan base exploded under Clark's reign. Their ticket sales tripled, and their media coverage skyrocketed. That momentum translates into more NIL deals and sponsorship opportunities for new players. Essentially, Caitlin built an empire that keeps paying dividends for the next generation. However, this blurred line between player and program raises serious questions. If a professional athlete helps attract recruits, does it cross an NCAA line? Or is it simply the natural evolution of college sports in the NIL era? So far, no one has accused Iowa of wrongdoing, but Jensen's comment turned speculation into a national conversation, whether intentional or not. Caitlin's post-college influence may have rewritten how future stars shape their alma maters. The truth is, Caitlin Clark doesn't need to bend any rules to change the game. Her presence alone, her name, her story, her success might be worth more than any NIL check Iowa could ever write. For years, Iowa was seen as a strong but modest basketball program, competitive, respected, but never considered elite. That changed the moment Caitlin Clark stepped onto the court. Her arrival didn't just elevate the team's play, it reshaped the school's identity. She became the heartbeat of Iowa sports, the face of a revolution that brought national attention, packed arenas, and sold-out seasons. Now, Jensen's comments reveal something even more strategic. Iowa didn't just celebrate Clark's success, they built an entire recruiting philosophy around it. The key to this transformation lies in how Iowa embraced Caitlin's image as part of the program's DNA. Instead of letting her story fade after graduation, they kept her alive in every conversation, every campus tour, every recruiting video. The message to young athletes is simple but powerful. Come to Iowa, and you can become the next Caitlin Clark. It's not a sales pitch, it's a proven blueprint. That emotional connection between legacy and opportunity is what sets Iowa apart in today's ultra-competitive recruiting environment. Inside the program, coaches have leaned into that strategy. Recruits are told about the Iowa culture, a system built on loyalty, team-first values, and fearless basketball. But what truly sells it is the visible proof that this culture produces legends. Caitlin's WNBA fame becomes a recruiting magnet by itself. Even in professional interviews, she frequently gives credit to her Iowa coaches, and that consistency has strengthened the bridge between her and the program. Every shout-out keeps Iowa relevant in national discussions, giving Jensen and her staff a story no other coach can tell quite the same way. What's fascinating is how, Iowa has modernized this approach without losing authenticity. They haven't turned Caitlin into a marketing gimmick. Instead, they've used her legacy as living proof that a small-town school can create global stars. This resonates deeply with recruits from rural areas or underrepresented backgrounds who see Iowa as a place where hard work still beats hype. The emotional weight behind that message is something money alone can't buy. Jensen, who's been by Lisa Bluder's side for decades, understands that better than anyone. Her calm confidence, mixed with pride for Caitlin's ongoing influence, suggests that this strategy wasn't planned by a PR team, it evolved naturally. Iowa's leadership simply recognized what they had, a generational athlete whose impact could sustain the program long after her final college game. That's rare in any sport, let alone women's basketball. Now, other programs are watching closely, trying to replicate Iowa's model, turning alumni influence into recruiting power. But there's only one Caitlin Clark, and only one Iowa that nurtured her from start to stardom. The real question now is whether the Hawkeyes can maintain this momentum once her shadow grows too large to manage. Because right now, every victory, every recruit, and every sold-out game seems to trace back to one name: Caitlin Clark. When Jensen hinted that Caitlin Clark had a hand in helping Iowa land their newest batch of stars, she wasn't exaggerating. This latest recruiting class might be one of the strongest in program history. 5 standout players, each one highly sought-after by powerhouse programs, chose Iowa over schools with bigger markets and deeper NIL pockets. That alone raised eyebrows across the college basketball landscape. Something about Iowa's pitch was hitting differently, and now we know why. Caitlin Clark's name was the silent closer in nearly every conversation. These recruits didn't just see Iowa as a basketball opportunity, they saw it as a movement. They grew up watching Caitlin pull off half-court shots, break scoring records, and transform a once-overlooked program into a national headline. To them, joining Iowa wasn't just about joining a team, it was about carrying on a legacy. Several of these new players reportedly mentioned Caitlin's influence during their commitment interviews, noting how her passion and humility inspired their decision. When your biggest recruiting asset is a current WNBA superstar who still shows up to support your program, that's a weapon no other school can match. One of the recruits, a 5-star guard from California, was reportedly blown away when Caitlin made a surprise appearance during her visit. She didn't expect it. No cameras, no press. Just a private moment where Clark shared what Iowa meant to her and how the program shaped her life. According to insiders, that visit sealed the deal. Imagine being a teenager and getting advice from the most famous player in women's basketball. That kind of experience doesn't happen anywhere else. It's not just about star power. Though Jensen and Lisa Bluder have managed to blend Caitlin's aura with a coaching philosophy that feels deeply human. They don't promise fame, they promise growth. They show recruits that Caitlin's success wasn't just natural talent, it was the product of Iowa's system. That authenticity resonates with parents and players alike. They see a coaching staff that values mentorship over marketing, yet somehow manages to create national icons in the process. For Iowa, this recruiting wave could define the next 5 years. With Clark's shadow looming large, these young athletes entered the program with enormous expectations. But that's also part of the draw. They know they're not coming to rebuild. They're coming to continue a dynasty that Caitlin started. And with the current buzz around the program, Iowa might soon be mentioned in the same breath as UConn or South Carolina when it comes to powerhouse women's basketball. Jensen's revelation didn't just expose Caitlin's behind-the-scenes role, it highlighted a generational shift in how players influence programs. These 5 recruits symbolize more than talent. They represent the ripple effect of one player's greatness. Caitlin Clark may have left Iowa, but her fingerprints are still all over its future. When Jensen's statement began spreading across social media, it didn't take long for the WNBA community to notice. Players, analysts, and even former coaches started weighing in. Some with praise, others with concern. The idea that Caitlin Clark, a current WNBA superstar, might be influencing college recruiting touched a nerve. It exposed a gray area the league hasn't publicly addressed. How much influence should a professional player have on collegiate programs, especially one she recently graduated from? On one side, many fans celebrated the revelation. They saw it as a sign of loyalty, a superstar giving back to the school that built her. "Caitlyn's doing what any great leader does," one analyst said. "She's lifting the next generation, and that's exactly what women's basketball needs." For supporters, this was another example of Caitlyn using her platform for good, helping elevate the entire sport rather than just her own brand. But not everyone saw it that way. Inside WNBA circles, some executives reportedly expressed quiet concern. The league already faces constant comparisons to the NCAA, especially since Clark's college popularity often overshadows professional coverage. Now, with this recruiting story dominating headlines, it added pressure to a league trying to define its own identity beyond Caitlyn's shadow. It's no secret that the WNBA thrives on her visibility. Ticket sales spike, TV ratings soar, and merchandise flies off shelves when she's involved. But hearing that she might still be shaping Iowa's roster blurred the lines between college and pro influence, creating an awkward tension the league didn't want. Behind closed doors, sources say certain team executives privately discussed how this could set a new precedent. If one WNBA player helps boost her former program's recruiting, what's stopping others from doing the same? Could this turn college recruiting into a network of pro-driven endorsements? It's a scenario the league isn't prepared for, and one that the NCAA doesn't have clear rules for. Meanwhile, WNBA players had mixed feelings. Some admired Caitlyn's loyalty. Others questioned whether it created unfair advantages. "Imagine if a UConn or South Carolina legend did this," one anonymous player said. "It would start a storm. But because it's Caitlyn, people celebrate it." That comment reflects a larger truth. Caitlyn's fame shields her from backlash most players would face. Her impact has become so massive that both leagues, NCAA, WNBA, seem reluctant to challenge her influence publicly. Still, the silence from official channels was deafening. Neither Iowa's athletic department nor the WNBA released any formal statements addressing Jensen's comments. It's as if both sides agreed to let the story fade naturally, hoping that the excitement of the upcoming season would shift the conversation. But deep down, everyone in the basketball world knows what just happened. Caitlyn Clark reminded everyone that her power doesn't end when the final buzzer sounds. She's not just shaping games, she's shaping the entire landscape of women's basketball, from college gyms to pro arenas. Once Jensen's interview clip went viral, it spread faster than anyone in Iowa's athletic department could control. Within hours, ESPN segments, college sports podcasts, and WNBA blogs were dissecting every word she said. Headlines screamed that Caitlyn Clark was recruiting from the pros, while social media turned the story into a battleground. Some fans hailed her as a hero for staying loyal to her roots. Others accused her of crossing ethical lines and blurring the distinction between amateur and professional competition. The conversation quickly snowballed from a small local quote to a national debate about influence, fairness, and power. Caitlyn's fan base, one of the largest in all of women's sports, immediately came to her defense. They flooded timelines with messages praising her loyalty and generosity, calling her a builder, not a rule breaker. Clips resurfaced of Caitlyn mentoring younger athletes, signing autographs for kids, and donating to Iowa's Nil Collective. To her supporters, this wasn't about bending rules. It was about lifting others. They argued that men's basketball legends like LeBron James and Steph Curry often support their alma maters without backlash. So why should Caitlyn be treated differently? But critics weren't buying it. Former NCAA compliance officers in sports, analysts warned that even the appearance of professional involvement in recruiting could raise red flags. Intent doesn't matter when perception shapes public trust, one expert noted. If recruits believe a pro athlete's endorsement comes with financial influence, it changes the entire landscape. That comment echoed through online forums and talk shows for days. Suddenly, Iowa's recruiting success wasn't just a feel-good story, it was being questioned under a microscope. Jensen, meanwhile, found herself in the eye of the storm. What she thought was a harmless acknowledgement of gratitude became a lightning rod for controversy. While she avoided direct follow-ups from national reporters, insiders say Iowa's PR team quickly advised her to steer clear of further comments on Caitlyn's involvement. The school didn't issue any corrections, but they didn't double down either, a strategic silence that spoke volumes. In the middle of it all, Caitlyn herself stayed quiet. No statements, no interviews, just business as usual with her WNBA schedule. That silence only fueled the speculation. Was she avoiding the spotlight to let the story fade? Or was she quietly frustrated that her loyalty to Iowa had been turned into a scandal? Either way, her name dominated headlines for another week, proving that even without saying a word, Caitlin Clark controls the narrative in women's basketball. The entire episode exposed something deeper. About modern sports culture, how quickly admiration can flip into accusation, and how female athletes often face scrutiny for the same actions their male counterparts are celebrated for. By the time the dust began to settle, one truth became clear. Caitlin Clark's influence had grown beyond the court, and with it came a level of power and pressure that few athletes ever experience. Even after the media storm faded, one thing remained undeniable. Caitlin Clark's influence had outgrown the boundaries of a basketball court. What started as Jensen's small, heartfelt comment turned into a revelation about how one player's legacy can redefine an entire institution. Caitlin didn't just change how Iowa played, she changed how Iowa thought. Her energy, confidence, and professionalism created a blueprint that every coach and recruit now follows. And whether the WNBA or NCAA likes it or not, her model of impact might be the future of college sports. Inside Iowa's walls, coaches and players continue to speak of her like a legend whose spirit still lingers. Every time a new recruit signs, reporters ask about Caitlin's role. Every time the team plays on national TV, her name trends again. It's as if her shadow is woven into the program's identity, not as a ghost of the past, but as a permanent source of inspiration. She doesn't need to recruit. Her story recruits for her. The sellout crowds, the national exposure, and the record-breaking viewership she built are still paying dividends. Iowa's basketball program has become synonymous with excellence, and Caitlin Clark is the reason why. For the WNBA, that's a WNBA. That's a double-edged sword. The league benefits from her global appeal, yet it's now clear that her roots still pull attention back to Iowa. Every time she visits her alma mater or posts about the Hawkeyes, social engagement spikes. That crossover effect between college and pro basketball is something women's sports have never seen at this level. It's rewriting how fan bases form. Young girls who first fell in love with the game watching Caitlin at Iowa are now following her professional career. But they're also keeping an eye on who's next at her old school. Iowa has become both a legacy brand and a talent factory, thanks to one player's enduring connection. And while some critics still question whether her influence stretches too far, others see it as a milestone for progress. Caitlin Clark represents what's possible when women athletes are given visibility and voice. She's proving that you don't need to leave your past behind to move forward. You can build both worlds at once. Her continued presence in Iowa's orbit challenges outdated norms about player involvement and community loyalty. She's showing that legacy isn't about trophies alone, it's about impact that multiplies long after you're gone. As the WNBA season rolls on and Iowa gears up for another year, one truth stands tall. Caitlin Clark's story is still being written, not just by her, but by every young player chasing her footsteps. Jensen may have leaked the truth, but the world already knew Caitlin Clark doesn't just play the game. She changes it, shapes it, and leaves it stronger every time she touches it. Jensen's slip wasn't just a passing comment, it was confirmation of something everyone suspected. Caitlin Clark's reach extends far beyond the stat sheets and highlight reels. She's not just a former player, she's the living heartbeat of Iowa basketball. Her continued influence in recruiting culture and visibility has turned the Hawkeyes into a dynasty that feeds off her legacy. What started as one player's rise to stardom has evolved into a full-fledged movement, reshaping the balance of women's basketball. Whether she's dropping dimes in the WNBA or quietly guiding the next generation back in Iowa, Caitlin Clark's impact refuses to fade. And as both leagues continue to feel the ripple effects, one thing is clear: this is no longer just about basketball. It's about power, loyalty, and the rare athlete whose name will echo through the game for decades to come.